we're going to talk through the top 5 ways people are wasting money in the reptile hobby. This video's come about because I think I've just wasted some money as well. I ordered this off wish.com and I thought, oh, normally you can buy that for like £100, but there it's only £22. Oh yes, I'm going to grab that. And when it turns up, it looks like this, and it really shouldn't look like this. In turn, I end up having to buy all of this and all of this wood just here, all to make that look like it should be. So what should have cost £100 is actually going to cost possibly around about £50, but it's going to take a lot of work and effort to go through. But let's start with the number one. What is one of the ways where you're wasting money? It's quite simple, stuff like this. This is corkback, which yes, this piece looks absolutely amazing. That one little piece of corkback costs nearly £10. You've also got rocks, rock surfaces, hardscapes, the hardscapes that are in your enclosure. Why are we spending a fortune on bits of corkback when we can get a full enclosure full of wood, more wood, more wood, more wood, more wood, for the price of £3 worth of petrol to get to the local forest? Now when you are ordering online for various bits of fancy wood, I call it fancy wood because it's expensive. If you are ordering that online, you can never actually physically see what it looks like. If you go down to the forest, you can get the exact correct piece of wood that you want. It does take a little bit of time to get it ready to go into an enclosure. If you need that wood really quickly, you can just sanitize the wood by either baking it or drowning it or boiling it or something like that. If your wood is far too big to actually fit into those enclosures, I just leave it to dry. I leave it there for a good 6 months, 3 months, just until it's solidly dry and I can see that nothing's growing on that wood from it being sat there, and that tends to work well for me. I mean, it's worked well with that enclosure just there. That's my chameleon build that I'm building. That video will be out soon. All the wood in Rosie's enclosure, that was done exactly the same way. All the ones in Mooshu's enclosure, again, exactly the same way. Just sort of picked up, left over there to dry out, and it works perfectly fine. What is number 2? The second biggest way that people are wasting money in the reptile hobby? Well, that's easy. That's the substrate that we're using. And that's because the substrate we're using is extremely expensive. The stuff you buy in the big bags from like Exoterra or Komodo, if you have a big enclosure like that and you need to do 2 foot deep worth of substrate in the bottom from there all the way down to there, that's going to cost you an absolute fortune. You can spend $8.99 on a 5 litre bag of substrate. Why? Make it yourself. It's so simple, it's so easy to actually make it yourself. Whether it's for an arid species like Hugo or a tropical enclosure like my morning geckos, there is different styles of substrate that you can make. Again, the bearded dragon. You can make so many different types of substrate. We've got an arid mix in here and we've got a tropical mix over there. If you want to learn how to make the different variants of substrate, I'll leave a video playlist up there to teach you everything you need to know. I mean, the substrate that's in that enclosure down there, that should have quite easily have cost well over £300 in the big bags, and that's buying it at a discount price. That probably cost me £25 worth of substrate in there. That's a mixture of topsoil and sand with a few other added ingredients inside it. And I managed to do that really cheap. The tropical mix, now that does have an awful lot of bits and pieces. That's the tropical bioactive mix. That has a few more bits and pieces built in with it to make it good enough to be used in that scenario. I mean, you think the tropical substrates, they've got to actually hold the humidity within the substrate. It's got to keep the humidity in that substrate as well as give it off. It's got to be able to house all your different isopods, your springtails. It's got to be good for plant growth as well as keeping the humidity extremely clean on a biotic level, a micro level for the animal that's going to be breathing in that air. While I start building this framework for all this sorts of stuff, if you're new around here, please make sure you do subscribe. So, with all the mess that's around, half the wood's gone, we've got part of it already finished, but I need a break. That's far too complicated for me. So now we're going to talk about number 3 on the list. What is the third thing that you can do to save a bit of money? Not just save a bit of money, but what actually we waste money on. Now, the reptile hobby is moving forward. We're moving forward towards bioactivity, and plants can cost an absolute fortune. And I mean that, an absolute fortune. So like, we've got this big one just here now. We actually brought this cheese plant about 6 months ago, and we're slowly growing it and growing it. It's going to be big enough eventually to go into there. So that would normally cost best part of £30. We actually paid a tenner and grew it to go into here. You can also do that with other plants as well. We've got a full plant rack just here. And it's all full of plants, not just that, but we've got them dotted all over there as well. We've got a lovely palm there. That's going to be for a big build coming up soon. We've got some spiders over there. We've got some more spiders over there. We've even got baby spiders. So you can grow your own plants to be able to propagate more plants for the future. It's just a little idea. It adds great air quality throughout your whole house or wherever you're actually growing your plants. Quite simply because they breathe in all the bad air and give out all the good area. One, that gives our animals an absolutely amazing air quality. Not just the air quality, but the air humidity. It looks nice throughout your house as well. And you can get the kids involved and do it all too. I love having houseplants, but they're not just houseplants. The plants that I specifically pick to grow have all got a purpose. That one's for there. The palm over there, that's for another big 60 tool that's going there. We've got the pothos plant. Now the pothos plant that was in that enclosure was actually a bit too big, so we cut it down, put it in there, and then we're actually growing the pothos plant just behind those plants just there. It's all a big progression, constantly growing. A weeping dew up here, that's for another project that we've got going. Just grow your own plants and you'll benefit massively. Check it out, check it out, check it out. The bird eater's out. That's the salmon pink bird eater, the LP. I can't wait because soon it's coming out of that enclosure and going into that enclosure. So we've got this full build to do eventually. You'll notice it's got black tape down here. That's the joy with buying second-hand enclosures, which is our number 4. Enclosure prices are stupid. They're through the roof. You could pay an absolute fortune. I mean, that 4-foot enclosure there is currently going for £117. I didn't pay anything for that. So second-hand or reptile rescue centres, they have enclosures like this just waiting for new homes. We actually got this one from TM Reptiles on Instagram, and he did say it's got a little bit of a crack in the front, and I was like, well, that's okay, because I'm going to block off the whole front anyway, just like I'm going to do with all the enclosures eventually. Isn't he a cutie? Or she? Or he, she? I don't know. We're not gender specific here on Northern Exotics, but this one as well. This big Repti breeds, you can pick these up second-hand for like £60. They're like 120 quid in shops and stuff. So, I mean, yeah, it's so easy to pick up cheaper versions of enclosures. This one, I actually got this from Scott's Inverts on YouTube. And it only cost me £20. A big, massive enclosure like that. Granted, I spent an awful lot more money actually building that enclosure. But enclosures don't have to cost the earth. So if you're thinking about getting a bearded dragon and you can't afford a brand new 4-foot enclosure, have a look second hand. Don't just look second hand though. How much will it cost to actually build the enclosures? My bearded dragon enclosure down there, 4 foot wide, 18 inch deep, 18 inch tall. That cost me £28 to build. The full wood, the glass, the runners, the vents, absolutely everything. £28 to actually build that enclosure. That's a little bit better off than spending £117 on a 4-foot enclosure from other reptiles. But before we get on to the very last one, I'm actually going to finish doing this and show you guys the end product and then get on to number 5. This is just what happens when you buy off wish.com. Biggest tip ever is check the description on anything you are buying. Yeah, I did it. Granted, I've got an awful lot of mess, but I'm looking at it right now and if I do say so myself, I'm quite proud of that. What do you think? Yes, I'm happy with that. I mean, it's right on my wall. You can see it's there, it's the telly. Let's go and have a closer look, shall we? We have got panther chameleon. We have got a big frog. We've got a dragonfly. This is where it gets complicated. We've got a bearded dragon. You can see him there eating away. On top of him is a tortoise. On top of him is an African land snail. We've got a carpet python down there. We've got an iguana there. And we've got a couple of little morning geckos up there. What do you think of that big canvas? Granted, I've had to make it and it's a bit of a bodge job and I'm no carpenter, but I kind of like that. Now let's get on to number 5. And number 5 is your food. Both your live food, your vegetables, all that sort of stuff. Yes, it can get quite expensive, especially when you've got a large collection like this. The biggest way to save money, you should never scrimp on your live food or your vegetables. You should always get the best of the best because that's what's making your animal as healthy as possible. But can it be healthier and cheaper? Yes, quite simply. Breed your own live food. Grow your own vegetables. It's what I'm doing. It's what's sustained me. It's what's allowed me to have such a big colony of animals. Colony of animals? Collection of animals? I hate saying collection. What do you call it if you've got a big collection of animals just like this? I call it family. If you want to learn how to breed dubia roaches, superworms, mealworms, or even grow your own veg, I have made a full playlist on this topic, and it's so simple. If you want to see that whole playlist, there's bound to be a video on there that's going to teach you how to do it all. They're never long videos, they're always really good and helpful, and they're very cheap to set up. It just costs you about a tenner to buy a tub, a heat mat, thermostat, chuck it all in, done, leave it. It's very self-sustaining. If you want to see that playlist, I'll leave it just up there. Feel free to click on that. But thanks for tuning into this video, guys. If you have enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button. If you did like that poster, I mean, Wish did do a bit of a crap job sending me just the roll of canvas, but I had to build the framework, go buy all the extras, but it was still cheaper than buying it brand new, but I had to do it and I didn't do the best quality job, but still it looks amazing. It's a piece of my personality in my home, turning this building into a home. Peace out, guys.